What if you were as rich as the entire city of London? The city's GDP is roughly $500 billion. But if you combine their wealth, the 8 richest people in the world are worth about that much. They control more money than the bottom half of the world's population. There were about 18 million households in the world with private wealth of at least $1 million in 2016. Those millionaires control around 45% of total private global wealth. Here's the thing. You don't have to be a billionaire or even a millionaire to be among the world's wealthy. To be considered in the top 1% here in the UK, a single earner with a spouse and 2 kids under the age of 14 would need to make around $430,000 before tax. But there's a key difference between income and wealth. Income is what you earn, like your monthly paycheck. Wealth is the total measure of your financial assets, like your home, your car, or those government bonds you got from your great-grandmother. By some measures, wealth is more unequally distributed than income. Recent data suggests the wealth of half of adults in the world is no more than $2,222. And a lot of people in this group have negative wealth, meaning their debts exceed the values of their assets. There's plenty of disagreement over evening out the world's wealth concentration. But even some of the richest people in the world, like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, agree that addressing solutions to wealth inequality can be worth, well, a lot.
You know, it is very hard to talk to the people of today. Too many people are under the prophesied strong delusion and are trapped in the matrix heavily. The movie The Matrix is a great metaphor of our reality because it shows that there is a false fabricated world that has been created to make us mindless zombies that move according to how we are programmed. And then there is the real world of people that are awakened from all the lies and programming. It is extremely important that we wake up from our slumber and come into the real world. The sad truth is that many people in this world will accept a new world order, one world currency, one world government, one world religion, and a one world ruler. This is because the people love the lies rather than the truth. And from people not accepting the truth and living through it, it is very easy to see how people are being herded to the new world order and will pledge allegiance to Satan. For what I have seen and noticed from even speaking with people is that they don't understand how this real world works, especially when it comes to the topic of money. This is where a lot of people really show just how strong the mental chains are on them. And I hear too much talk about people wanting to get rich and become billionaires and be famous, or they want to get a bigger house. They want to obtain all these possessions that they can get. They want to be on top of their haters and just a bunch of other nonsense. I hear way too much talk like this from many people, even family and friends. The issue that I have is that people don't understand who actually runs this world and how they are guiding people to a whole new future with money. Now, I will take this time to explain who actually created this money and the power grab they have on the world so that more minds can be set free from the matrix. What people need to understand is that this system that we have been living in is not only about physical slavery, but more about mental slavery. This matrix system was created over a century and a half ago that we have been born into that controls our minds completely in all aspects. In the book Propaganda by Edward Bernays in 1928, he says, "The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is the logical result of the way in which a democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pulled the wires which control the public mind. Now, this man Edward is saying that an important element in our democratic society is an intended manipulation of our organized habits and opinions of what we do and what we think. And those that do this make up an invisible government, which is the true ruling class. This is who we are molded and guided by, men we have never heard of that control and dictate almost every act of our daily lives.
What I'm about to tell you is top secret. A conspiracy bigger than all of us. There's a powerful group of people out there that are secretly running the world. I'm talking about the guys no one knows about, the guys that are invisible. The top 1% of the top 1%, the guys that play God without permission.
The people of today are unable to fathom that there is an unseen hand that controls this world. Now, I cannot tell you their names and who they are exactly. The most we know about is family names, but it's hard to know the individuals. These people are the ones who are hidden behind the scenes, but control all the doors of access in the world. There are Oxfam reports that are done almost every year about the world's richest people. Like in the year 2019, the report shows that the world's 26 richest people own as much as the poorest 50%. Basically, 26 people control 50% of the world's wealth, 26 out of 7 billion plus people. That is a ridiculous gap in wealth. Anyone that thinks that it's impossible that there are a group of people that can run this world just aren't using common sense.
When you think of secret societies, you think of groups of rich old men, like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, sitting around a ridiculously long table, all trying to top each other with their best diabolical laugh. It makes for a fun cartoon, but in reality, such societies and secretive meetings do exist, and one is going on right now behind closed doors in England. The Bilderberg Group is a meeting of the most influential people in Europe and North America. Wall Street investors, business moguls, politicians, royalty, they're all coming together and keeping the media and everyone else out. What are they discussing? What are they plotting? Doesn't the public have a right to know? Well, apparently no, though what they chat about could very well end up impacting your 401k or who knows what else.
Security was tight today at the Grove Hotel in this leafy area north of London. 140 members of the global elite arrived here for a top-secret, hush-hush, off-the-record conference in the English countryside.
If these 26 people pull out all their money in the stock markets around the world, this will cause an economic collapse. There are people who believe that people like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, and etc. are the richest people in the world.
The rumors of Putin's wealth, well, some of them are simply staggering.
And some people, including myself, believe that he's the richest man in the world or one of the richest men in the world.
Bill Browder was once the largest foreign investor in Russia. Now he's one of Vladimir Putin's toughest critics. We talked in 2015.
You really think Putin is the richest man in the world?
I really think that. And I'm not just saying that crazily.
Estimate his net worth.
200 billion.
Really?
I believe that it's 200 billion.
That would make Putin almost 2.5 times wealthier than the man whom Forbes says is the world's wealthiest, Bill Gates.
These people are just distractions from those who have the real wealth and power. And these people are well known. They are just the people who are put out in the front. You can see the little power that they hold, but like I said, it's just distractions from those who really matter. You must understand that there is an unseen hand who is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of. So you need to understand who actually is in control here of the world's monetary system. When talking about those who control the money, who you should be talking about is the Rockefeller family, the House of Morgan, and the influence of Andrew Carnegie. These are some men you need to research on if you want to understand who controls this world system. There are books you can read like David Rockefeller's Memoirs, or The Rockefellers and American Dynasty, and The House of Morgan by Ron Chernow. You can also watch the History Channel series, The Man Who Built America. That series can give you a somewhat detailed summary of their wealth and power during the late 19th century after the Civil War up into the early 20th century. These men were very rich, and these are the guys who built America. In an article written by the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond on the website federalreservehistory.org, it is said about J.P. Morgan that in an era that lacked the central bank, Morgan sometimes served as a de facto lender of last resort. In 1893, the country experienced a panic sparked by a series of railroad failures and a run on gold. 2 years later, with the economy still struggling and gold reserves dwindling, Morgan organized an international syndicate of bankers to buy gold and sell it to the U.S. government in exchange for U.S. government bonds. During the Panic of 1907, Morgan assembled a group of bankers to provide a $10 million loan to the Trust Company of America, as well as loans to other troubled institutions, and $35 million in loans to the New York Stock Exchange, quelling the panic. The Treasury provided an additional $25 million and John D. Rockefeller an additional $10 million. You should know that this information is not hidden. It is admitted that before the creation of the Federal Reserve, J.P. Morgan organized an international syndicate of bankers to reduce the economic panic. He was a lender of last resort. This is something that people do not know and are not aware of. A big part of the matrix is understanding the money. If you follow the money, then the control aspects of this world become much more clear to you. Everything that is happening in this world, from wars, coronavirus, food shortages, and etc., is all about debt. Many people get confused when the national debt is spoken of because they don't understand who the world owes its money to. Like I just read from the article, it said that J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller is a lender of last resort for the United States. It's these families that are considered old money that we owe. The world and its resources are run by a very small amount of people. Now, do you think that they just stopped and America got its act together? Do you really think that they stopped in their desire for control and left the country and then the world up to other people that would control it? That is not the case. They went in for an even stronger power grab. Understanding what these men did is understanding where we see the massive power grab in the world occur. Now, what is the Federal Reserve? Is the Federal Reserve a United States government organization? The Federal Reserve is the United States Central Bank. They are the lenders of our country, but they are not a government agency. They are not controlled by the United States government, which is why they cannot be audited by the United States. You see, these wealthy families are the ones who lend their wealth to these countries, and then they become their bank. When the country needs to do things, they borrow money from these wealthy families, and in turn, they pay them interest payments. So these wealthy families are the lenders of the United States. But you must understand that they are not loaning these countries gold that has the real value. They are loaning out pieces of paper that they themselves print, and they call it money. And these men make this money out of cotton and linen, showing that we are still in physical slavery, just how the Negroes were when they were picking cotton from the fields. But our physical slavery is different this time. Anyways, on the front of every dollar bill, you will see it is in fact a Federal Reserve note. It is a piece of paper that represents our debt to them. In the beginning, it was tied to the price of gold. Eventually, it was taken off the gold standard and no longer backed by anything. The United States dollar is only as strong as the confidence that people, countries, governments, and corporations believe it is.
Faith in the government of the United States that gives the U.S. currency its value. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by anything except people's confidence in the United States of America.
But it is these captains of industries, the families of the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Rothschilds, and other wealthy families, they became the lenders of the United States and others, and they control our money. They are the Federal Reserve, but are a hidden, unseen hand that we will never see. A book you can read to understand how all of this started is The Creature from Jekyll Island, and it explains this in much better detail. On the FederalReserveHistory.org website, it says, in November 1910, 6 men, Nelson Aldrich, A.P.I. Andrew, Henry Davidson, Arthur Shelton, Frank Vanderlip, and Paul Warburg met at the Jekyll Island Club off the coast of Georgia to write a plan to reform the nation's banking system. The meeting and its purpose were closely guarded secrets, and participants did not admit that the meeting occurred until the 1930s. But the plan written on Jekyll Island laid a foundation for what would eventually be the Federal Reserve System. A member of the exclusive Jekyll Island Club, most likely J.P. Morgan, arranged for the group to use the club's closed facilities. Founded in 1886, the club's membership boasted elites such as Morgan, Marshall Field, and William Kissam Vanderbilt I, whose mansion-sized cottages dotted the island. Munsey's magazine described it in 1904 as the richest, the most exclusive, the most inaccessible club in the world. From this meeting, the Federal Reserve was created, and they are not hiding this information. This was the major power grab that they instituted, and this was not just for the United States. They implemented this all over the world and pretty much all major countries on our map. All these central banks around the world are fairly new creations, and it's the way that they handle and control a nation. From the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, the People's Bank of China, the Reserve Bank of India, the Bank of Korea, the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, the Bank of Israel, and etc., they are all coordinated. They run and control the world through the creative organization called the Bank for International Settlements, the BIS. This is probably the most important bank in the world, which predates the IMF and the World Bank unknown to many. Founded in 1930, the purpose of the Bank of International Settlements is to promote the cooperation of central banks and to provide additional facilities for international financial operations. And from this organization, the bankers of the world run the world. You can see that money is a huge leg of control for this matrix. They control the outflow of money and the value of it. There is a quote from Nathan Meyer Rothschild saying, "I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets." The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. So we should understand that whoever controls the money controls the nation. The lender always has more power than the borrower. All the debt that has been accumulated over the century around the world is held by a few unknown bankers that control the economic foundation of the world. And when you understand this, you understand that the world system can never be fair. It's controlled by a small amount of wealthy families that dictate their will on the rest of the world. There are people who want to make the argument, if the Messiah of the Bible is real, then why do many people who believe in him live in poverty, and they feel from this that he must not be real? First off, this is dumb thinking, and the majority who believe in Jesus believe in the pagan one. And secondly, what people are not aware of, like I explained, is that this world is controlled by Satanists who use finance as a weapon. This is actually shown in the Bible that there are those who do bow to Satan and worship and serve him. Again, the devil took him up on an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, "All these things I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." Then Yahusha, Jesus, said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship Yahuwah your Elohim, and him only you shall serve." Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him. Matthew chapter 4, verse 8 to 11. So understand, Yahusha overcame this temptation, but there are many other men in the world that have failed for it. John D. Rockefeller felt strongly that his wealth was given to him from God. But what God is he talking about? Understand that God is general, and it is a title, not a name. In the Bible, it states Satan as the god of this world, whose minds the god of this world has blinded, who do not believe, lest the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of Elohim, should shine on them. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. So when this man said that God gave him his money, who he is talking about is Satan. Satan is the one who gave these families all these kingdoms of the world, and they have been on a mission to promote a love of this world to you, promoting a dependency upon them and their system, promoting a false understanding of the Elohim we say we love. They have promoted wealth and greed, materialism, and unhealthy fornication with the world that only leaves us away from fellowship with the Most High Yahuwah. You see, these families worship Satan as God and are committed to bringing about the devil's dominion. In David Rockefeller's memoir book, on page 405, it says, "For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidents such as my encounter with Castro to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated, global, political, and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it." You see, David makes it clear that him and his family, as well as others, are conspiring against the United States. He is writing this because this is part of their religious goals to bring about a new world order. They are dedicated to bringing about Satan's kingdom on earth. They actually prove this to you with the fake money that they print. If you were to look on the back of the US dollar bill, it says, "In God we trust." Now, if we just went over 2 scriptures from the Bible that clearly shows Satan as the God of this world, then what God do you think they are saying they trust in? Obviously, they are trusting in Satan. Another message that they have on the back of the dollar, what we know as the Great Seal of the United States, is the Egyptian Masonic pyramid with the words Annuit Coeptis Novus Ordo Seclorum. Now, both of these words are Latin. From the Merriam-Webster, the words Annuit Coeptis means He, God, has approved our undertaking. Now, what is this symbol right under these words? This tells you who favors the undertaking. What is that undertaking? The Merriam is a little deceptive and unclear. They say a new succession of ages, but this is not accurate because though novus does means new, ordo doesn't mean succession. Ordo in Latin means order. Seclorum in Latin is said to mean centuries or ages. So what the phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum actually means is new order of the ages. Annuit Coeptis Novus Ordo Seclorum means He, God, has approved our undertaking for a new order of the ages. And this is on the Great Seal of the United States. The tools that will be used to usher in this new order of the ages bear this seal, the government and financial tool. They also very clearly show this as they have the Eye of Horus, which is the symbol that goes back to Lucifer or Satan. I mean, there are many symbols on the dollar that communicates a lot of things. This makes you wonder why they don't teach about all of these symbols that they put on the US dollar bill. It is our currency, so why aren't they teaching us what's on it? But these families that rule the world are working towards a new world order. One of the agendas they have is called the Great Reset. One of the resets they want to do is an economic reset. In regards to the economic reset, listen to what it says about the United States dollar, the fate of the US dollar. For decades, the U.S. has enjoyed the exorbitant privilege of retaining the global currency reserve, a status that has long been a perk of imperial might and an economic elixir. To a considerable extent, American power and prosperity have been built and reinforced by the global trust in the dollar and the willingness of customers abroad to hold it, most often in the form of U.S. government bonds. For quite some time, some analysts and policymakers have been considering a possible and progressive end to the dominance of the dollar. They now think that the pandemic might be the catalyst that proves them right. On the one hand, managing the economy sensibly, doubters of the US dollar dominance point to the inevitable and sharp deterioration of the US fiscal position. In their mind, unsustainable levels of debt will eventually erode confidence in the US dollar. Just prior to the pandemic, U.S. defense spending, plus interest on the federal debt, plus annual entitlement payments, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, represented 112% of federal tax receipts versus 95% in 2017. This unsustainable path will worsen in the post-pandemic, post-bailout era. This argument suggests that something major will therefore have to change, either through a much reduced geopolitical role or higher taxation, or both. Otherwise, the rising deficit will reach a threshold behind which non-U.S. investors are unwilling to fund it. After all, the status of reserve currency cannot last longer than foreign confidence and the ability of the holder to honor its payments. As for a global virtual currency, there's none in sight yet, but there are attempts to launch national digital currencies that may eventually dethrone the U.S. dollar's supremacy. Ultimately, the possible end of the U.S. dollar's primacy will depend on what happens in the U.S. As Henry Paulson, a former U.S. Treasury Secretary, says, U.S. dollar prominence begins at home. The United States must maintain an economy that inspires global credibility and confidence. Failure to do so will, over time, put the U.S. dollar's position in peril. So you can see from their writing that they are plotting for the U.S. dollar to collapse. This is also the reason why they took the dollar off the gold standard. The dollar will collapse and will no longer be used as a world currency. There is an entity called the World Economic Forum, who are the drivers for the New World Order, that discusses these things out in the open.
And so I think we have to go deeper, and it's not about the US versus China. It's about what underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in '71, and so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new one, the new accounting, is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The US is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well. And the question is, will that new system of digital money and digital accounting accommodate the competing needs of the citizens of all these locations so that every human being has a chance to have a better life? Because that's the only measure of whether a world order really serves.
They are able to discuss these things in the open because they have the masses distracted with fake politics and all facets of entertainment that you can think of. But the world knows the dollar will not last, and they are preparing for a world that will be transitioned away from it. But they are not preparing the population for this. They actually tell us this in their predictive programming movies.
You'd have to keep a thing like this under wraps. I mean, just think about it, okay? First, the stock market would go. Then, the economy, boom! The dollar, boom! And then pandemonium in the streets. War, genocide, boom, boom!
You see, many people don't recognize is that they are using money the most to lead us into the New World Order. These same families that created this old financial system and money have now created new cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that are hedging against the fiat currencies like the dollar. Remember that David Rockefeller said that they are conspiring against the old world order ran by the United States in order to bring about a new world order. This is why you have been seeing the other countries they've been using to come against America to bring about this plan. But this new money they created is an enemy against the current financial system. They are just a sign of them showing us that a new digital economy is approaching that will have us using these new digital currencies and not using cash anymore. There has been a lot of talk from world leaders of them alluding that the dollar is collapsing and that new digital currencies will be used in the new economy. And they do desire a new system where people will have to take a mark in order to buy and sell. And in order to achieve this type of banking system, they need to get rid of hard cash. Understand, in order for the prophecy of us to not be able to buy or sell without the mark, the entire world has to be on the same form of payment, and with physical cash, this is not possible. Understand, you cannot stop buying or selling when there is cash, and there must be a world currency because there must be economic rules for the whole world to abide to. If no man may buy or sell without this mark, you need a cashless world currency. So there is no coincidence why there is a major push to digitize money. Cryptocurrencies are a new currencies that have only been around for a decade, but is now being promoted as the future of money. The blockchain technology is a literal digital ledger that records all transactions. We can see that this is the goal of the elite. They want a cashless society so that every transaction is recorded and they know what everyone is doing around the world. With cash, that is not possible because transactions are able to be done without record. If I give you cash, there is no way for them to know. But in a control B system, everything must be recorded. But they will do this in the name of peace and security, and to protect the system from failing again after the global economic collapse. They want a cashless society, and you can only deny that if you are ignorant to the world events that is happening right before your eyes. They went from cash to checks, to credit debit cards, to chip in the cards, to payment through our phones, to now digital currencies, where physical currency is never used again. Back then, all of this will be a nut conspiracy. Today, this is reality to anyone who has their eyes open. Nevertheless, we will not see the mark of the beast being distributed until after the world goes into chaos, and then the Antichrist brings in the new digital economy. But I'm going to stop here because this was enough already. This was me giving an attempt to explain their financial arm of the matrix we are under. This matrix system is leading the world to a new world order. Its purpose is to control your mind and lead everyone in the world towards a Luciferian one world government. The economic leg of it was all about gaining power and control. There is nothing that you can do about this. This is not about sparking a revolution. They already have such a power grab. That's why they made documentaries like The Men Who Built America. It's not secret anymore. The only thing that we can do is not be asleep and unaware of them. So we need to make sure that our lives are not being guided into the direction that they desire for us. So from all of this, you can now see that there is an unseen hand that has been guiding the world through control of money and economics that has spilled over into every other facet of our lives. Do not forget that quote from Bernays because it absolutely applies to today. The Matrix is a time of strong delusion. The Apostle Paul wrote of it in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. The Matrix is all about bringing about the reign of the lawless one, the one who we know as the Antichrist. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this reason, Yah will send them strong delusion, that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9 to 12. As you start uncovering the lies of Satan, you can see how true this really is. But everyone has a choice to make between Satan and his lies, or Yahuwah and his truth. The choice is yours in what you believe. For me, I didn't realize how true the Bible was until I realized how many people at the top of the world pyramid worship the devil. And so I felt that if the devil is real, then Yahushua the Messiah of the Bible has to be real as well. And this took me on this journey that I am on to seek out Yahuwah's truth. You must not be ignorant to the true reality of this world. You must live for what really matters. Yahuwah the Most High is calling for you, desiring for a personal relationship with you if you put away your desire for this wicked world. The only question is, will you answer his call? Please say yes and be blessed. Amen.